Hey, Foot Clan, whether you're into podcasts about ghastly crimes or hip-hop rhymes, there's always something new to discover over on Spotify. With a mix of originals and many of the world's most popular shows, listening to podcasts on Spotify is easy. Just open the app, tap Browse, and dive into their growing library. Subscribe to all your favorites, including our entire archive, so that you'll never miss a show. You can also download podcasts for those moments when you're up in the air or going underground. So podcasts on Spotify are streaming right now. Go check them out.
Hey, it's Martavis Bryant, a.k.a. Martin McBride, and you listen to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from the Redraft Studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
The boys are back again.
Oh!
It's good to be back. The whole crew. It's good to be back, America. Back in the building. Just remember, if you're listening to those podcasts under the earth, down beneath the ground.
You never hit like the dig up in Boston?
Nope.
The Big Dig? They call it something like that.
What is that?
That was their huge tunnel project from back in the 90s or something.
You're up on tunnel lore?
You're darn right.
Tunnel projects?
Well,
Where do you think he's been this last week?
Just so you know, when you're on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and you got to phone a friend about a tunnel, you know who to call.
All the Kareem Hunt owners are in that tunnel right now.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
burying themselves.
They have no service.
Trust me, I'm in there too.
I am too. I ranked him 4 this week. I'll be the first to admit. I thought, Andy Reid, play calling goes away. We're going to have common sense that trickles down here.
Sharkhandrick West, gone. All right.
Yeah, the Jets, I mean, they're going to – no, the wheels are falling off. 3, 6, and 6 teams top that division.
Well, because to be fair, I mean, we had that half where Andy Reid gave Kareem Hunt, the 4 carries in the first half or whatever, and the new play caller said, hold my beer, here's 1 carry in the first quarter.
Unbelievable.
What did Kareem Hunt do to deserve this?
I don't know. He's getting Ingrammed.
Did he?
The old school Sean Payton Ingram treatment.
And I want to look – let's just look at this for a second. Let's just talk Kareem Hunt right now.
Yes.
Because what people need to understand here, and I get it. Look, you want to bench him, go bench him. But this was not 3 games to start the year. Just to be clear, this was 7 consecutive games with 100 or more yards, all-purpose.
Scrimmage.
From scrimmage, sorry. From scrimmage. 7 games in a row.
Consecutively.
Consecutive games in a row. In order. Back to back to back to back to back to back to back.
Oh, nice.
And now you're in this place where he's submarining fantasy seasons. And what do you do, Mike? We talked about this last week. What do you do?
I don't know, man. But so I'll give my example, right? So in the Dynasty League, Andy, give us an update on undefeated.
Oh, the judge!
Oh, hail the judge! The mighty judge!
Brooks takes him down.
The pressure for the perfect season has been removed.
Down goes Frazier!
And do you want to know why? Because,
oh, the judge.
The judge brought a verdict of guilty.
The plaintiff, Brooks Carmine, says, your team is not nearly good enough to be undefeated.
I blame Adrian Peterson for this. His late inactive forced me to play a guy by the name of Devontae Parker.
I feel like you should blame Parker.
Well, I know people think that, but Devontae Parker, he got that invisibility cloak from Harry Potter, and he has put it on for the last 5 weeks.
Especially the way that Kerwin Williams was running. Were you just looking at all the points Adrian Peterson?
Yes, of course I was.
But anyways, so back on track. This is quite a wacky
You needed
opening.
to troll me. Go ahead.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, Brooks hasn't even said anything. Do you want to say anything, Brooks?
Undefeated. Denied.
I was expecting a you lose.
Nope.
No, that was better.
But that was more authoritarian.
But in the Dynasty League, I will be looking at because I luckily have some running back depth that has surfaced in the face of Rex Goathead. I will be looking at possibly playing Rex Burkhead over Kareem Hunt, and I don't. hopefully people have, you've gathered up that running back depth. But overall, I would say I'm with Andy that I don't know if you can actually bench him. I know he's in a rut.
9 of 12 weeks, still double digits in our league.
Yeah, he's still
Oakland,
been very serviceable.
Oakland, not a great defense at home. Their next 3 games, right? The fantasy playoffs, they're all at home. Kansas City's at Arrowhead for Oakland, the Chargers, Miami. I mean, that doesn't get any better, does it? But here's the big key, and this is what I'm learning as I grow and become wise. If you don't get the ball, you score nothing.
Yeah, it's so bizarre. And it worked. I mean, right? It worked out in the beginning of the game.
I thought you meant for the Chiefs because it did not work for the Chiefs.
They lost.
I understand, but I'm saying the beginning of the game, 2 quick strikes to Travis Kelce. So I imagine as a play caller, I'm unstoppable. And you become infatuated with the pass, and Alex Smith has this huge statistical game, but you still lost, so hopefully they can look in the mirror and say, well, maybe we should have slowed things down a little bit with a 14-point lead. And
Studs and Duds on the show today. We'll get into the rewind. Jason, a quick question for you. If you're knocked out of the fantasy playoffs, if Kareem Hunt let you down yesterday, somebody else, how can you use the rest of this season to prepare for next season?
Yeah, I think that's actually a really important question because I've shared this before, but, a decade ago, if I was out of the playoffs and I would stop paying attention to what happened. I would stop following the games, and I didn't realize how much that hurt my following season. Where you pick up from knowledge-wise, you're missing the look, Mike Davis.
Right.
If you don't pay attention to what happens the rest of the season, you might come into next year going, I don't even really know who that guy is. And maybe he's someone really important for 2018. So the best thing you could do is just, we try to make this entertaining and fun for all. I would make sure you keep listening to this show. Make sure you keep watching football. Just have fun. I mean, fantasy football is fun. And look, nowadays, unlike a decade ago, you can then go over and play drafts on PlayDraft. You can play FanDuel or DraftKings. Just because you're out of your main league doesn't mean that fantasy football is over.
You can do playoff football leagues.
Yes.
So, I mean, there's all sorts of things you can do right now.
Join the NFL.
Yeah.
Join a franchise.
Go to open tryouts.
Become a Disney movie.
Like Mark Wahlberg?
Invincible. There you go.
I was thinking more, Tony Danza?
They found him. They found him in the dump.
That's the way that, in fairness, that's the way I expect it to go down for me. I expect
to be discovered?
To be discovered
in a dump?
In a dump.
Oh, instead of like a buffet.
Yeah,
right.
That's probably more.
We need a lineman.
Well, look,
pick him up.
To piggyback on Jason, stay connected with us on jointhefoot.com. We do extra episodes all year round. We are a year-round fantasy football podcast, so come join our community. That's how people have built the foundation for their team at jointhefoot.com. Now, quick shout-out, Pat Patterson.
Yeah, baby.
Oh,
Jason and
yeah.
Jason and I may or may not be going on almost no sleep for the last 36 hours, and it's May. We may be. But we were calling the drafts World Series of Fantasy final from New York City over the weekend. We had one Foot Clan member in the final table.
That's still fantastic.
Oh yeah, one of the Foot Clan representing at the final table,
and he won.
Whew,
he won the
$25,000.
So that was awesome.
Congrats.
That was great. We had a good time. All right. Also, quick update, Jason. We had a little water bet this week. I bet that Josh Gordon would outperform Corey Coleman. How many catches did Corey Coleman have?
Corey Coleman had
infinite
4 targets.
4 targets. Okay.
But 0 receptions. I mean, you could just say
correct.
Josh Gordon,
unlimited.
4 for 85. We'll talk about him a little bit later.
And that was on Casey Hayward, which,
by the way, that was like his 7th or the most production on Casey Hayward in like 2 years or something like that.
That was it was JJ Zachariason, good friend of the show. JJ had tweeted out that the only other receiver to put up production on Casey Hayward like that, Odell Beckham.
Nice return for Josh Gordon.
Yeah.
You've got to be wondering if you get to play him in the playoffs.
Certainly.
That'll be a discussion for this week for sure.
Weekly Rewind.
All right, Tyrod Taylor carted off with a knee injury in the third quarter, didn't return. I don't think it's serious. We'll find out more this week. The opinions that I've read don't think it's serious.
Yeah, it's not serious, but you're looking at possibly missing time. You're looking at a team that is now likely done, out of the playoff hunt, and now the coaching staff and the management of the Buffalo Bills have a full legit excuse to play Nathan Peterman over Tyrod Taylor.
And you, as a fantasy owner, have a full legit excuse to play any defense facing the Buffalo Bills.
Absolutely.
And it hurts. If he misses time, it hurts LaShawn McCoy.
Yes, it does.
Tremendously. Matthew Stafford diagnosed with a bruise on his throwing hand. If you saw him walk off the field, his hand was bleeding. It was beat up. X-rays came back negative. He's a tough dude. I bet he plays.
Yes.
And they're in the hunt.
But
so.
I will say, recall last year.
I was going to bring it up.
Matthew Stafford toughed it out when he had a dislocated finger, and his stats went.
Yeah, he was
unusable for fantasy.
Ty Montgomery placed on IR. It's all Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones. Jones had one run to win the game this past week.
It's a pretty good one.
Zach Ertz left Week 13 with a concussion. Now Ertz has had he's dealt with this before.
Yeah.
And so we need to monitor Zach Ertz. This is going to have an impact on my Rising Star pick. We've got the Raising Cane's Rising Stars later on the show today. So we'll talk more about Zach Ertz and whether we expect him back next week. Colby Fleener's on IR with a concussion, if you hadn't heard that. And then your boom kicker, Nick Novak, promptly heard your rhyme and went on IR voluntarily. He said, I am not going to take part in this.
His replacement was good.
Who was the replacement?
His replacement.
Oh.
Now, I believe you said if you're worried about his health, take a Prozac.
Yeah, you're going to need a lot of them because he's on IR.
Yeah, didn't go well.
No.
Hey, big news. Alshon Jeffery.
Yeah.
4-year, $52 million extension. They built this Carson Wentz, Alshon Jeffery, Mac Hollins foundation. Are you excited about this? I mean, we saw a great game from Nelson Aguilar, only 24 years old. Alshon Jeffery, he's going to be 28 in February, so he's in his prime.
The Philadelphia Eagles have almost all of their key pieces locked up until 2020. We're talking, offensive line, Lane Johnson, Fletcher Cox. The core of this team is young, intact, and under contract. I would love to be a Philadelphia fan right now.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was Alshon bet on himself. He won. The Eagles
number one offense.
I think they did the right thing. They took the chance. They took the flyer on Alshon, and they recognized, hey, this is good. Let's not drag this out into a drama of the offseason. Do we have to franchise him? No, he's an elite level wide receiver. Let's lock him up.
So
that was a great move.
We're 1 for 2 on players betting for themselves.
Oh,
on the 1-year contract.
Pryor.
You'll be a free agent soon.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and talk about some of the big performers of Week 13.
This week's Fantasy Stud Muffins.
I'm debating whether I should bring this up or not. Well, I'll think about it. All right, Alex Smith. Alex Smith put up 19 for 33.
So mysterious.
Well, here's what I was going to bring up. So Alex Smith put up 366 and 4 this week. Mm-hmm. And right after like the 4th touchdown, I get a special notification from an unnamed source that tells me how good Alex Smith might be the rest of the year in terms of his schedule, and you need to pay attention to him. I just thought it was a little opportunistic. Like, I would like to send out notifications to all of our followers after all the players have good weeks and just say, I think they're going to have a good week this week. Because my accuracy will go way up. Like, Alex Collins has a good shot to put up big numbers today. Anyways, Alex Smith, 366 and 4. I don't think a lot of people trusted him this week. But if you did, you were rewarded in a big way. Thrilled to see Josh McCown deliver for the streamers out there. 331, a touchdown.
2 rushing touchdowns.
2 rushing touchdowns. A gamer. Played great. Curse. Robbie Anderson left the field for a little bit, but McCown found him. Great game. And the 3 running backs, all 3 contributed. Forte, McGuire, Powell. Jason, how did Blake Bortles do this week?
Oh, man. Guys, look, if you haven't heard me talk much on this episode, there's There's a lot of reasons for it.
Today is so sad. It's a
But
day
one
for
of those,
celebration, gentlemen.
One of those reasons is in the aforementioned Dynasty League, I was going head-to-head against Mike. It's a win-and-get-in situation. Now, I'm not out of it. Still got a couple players that just need big games tonight, but probably out. Unless I had played the guy that I had in my lineup prior to the late switch out. I had Blake Bortles in there. He did pretty good. He had a very nice week. 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, 27 rushing yards. I played Matt Ryan. So I'm going to need a big game from Antonio Brown and Joe Mixon.
Real big.
Real big.
Real big.
You're going to need some of those Nick Novaks.
Oh, do we update the Antonio Brown situation yet?
Nope.
So Antonio Brown right now, as of the recording of this show, Monday, December 4th, it's looking good. We have no definitive news. It's still a game-time decision. Hopefully you're stocked up with a Juju, Martavis. Jesse James, I'm telling you, Jesse James is a sneaky play tonight regardless. I just think Jesse James has potential today. And then, you need somebody. You need, at a minimum, you got to have a LaFell or somebody you can roll in.
Eli Rogers.
For the Monday night game. So, game-time decision, optimistic he plays. And another stud muffin quarterback to talk about, Russell Wilson, put up an incredible performance yesterday. They beat the Eagles. They look like they're still a force without their defense, having all of their weapons.
He saves everything.
He does.
For the second half.
Yeah.
Not just of the season, but of every single game. I mean, he's just padding that fourth quarter touchdown stat.
He's amazing. I think last night's game was, a preview of that NFC Championship week. And I'll also throw out Case Keenum. Andy, your start of the week, my stream of the week. He was 227 and 2 touchdowns on the road, had a really solid game. I think he is safer going forward than what
Panthers?
Than what his name suggests. No,
on the road against
not Panthers on the road, but this is what I mean is that the game after that, he has a tough matchup at home against Cincinnati.
That's not that tough.
But I'm saying it's not too tough for Case Keenum. Exactly. I'm saying I will start Case Keenum at home against Cincinnati.
Sure.
And that, a couple weeks ago you might have gone, well, that's not – you're only starting Case Keenum in the juiciest of matchups. I don't think that's true. The Minnesota offense looks really solid.
Yeah, Minnesota. And, look, Minnesota's fighting to potentially have home field throughout the entire playoffs.
Are they officially the number one
They
seed
are
right
officially
now?
the number one seed right now. But they're fighting with Philadelphia. I think it goes to like a fourth tiebreaker right now, and Minnesota has that. But this is an opportunity for Minnesota to have 2 home games and then a home game Super Bowl. I mean, that's their situation right now. So, huge opportunity. You like to see that. You like to hear that. If you're a Carson Wentz owner, look, last night it wasn't great, but he's great. He put together some amazing plays. That fumble basically ended that game. If you get in the end zone there, his game changes. He still had a 20-plus night. But you want Carson Wentz, Case Keenum, and those weapons on both those teams fighting for home field advantage throughout the playoffs so that Week 16 comes along and you're not saying, well, do they take it easy? Do they go, vanilla, keep a guy rested, whatever it is. You want them fighting. Running backs. Special spot reserved now for Alvin Kamara.
He's like the VIP behind the red velvet rope.
Well, I mean, what more can you say? 9 for 62. It's the same thing every week.
It doesn't matter how
10
many
to 14 touches for 2 touchdowns and 1 million yards per carry.
A beast touchdown.
But that's every week.
No,
man. Every week.
But this was a specialty when Shaq Thompson, I believe it was, blew him up. I mean, first of all, play defense, wrap him up. I mean, learn how to tackle. But he did his best to just explode the body parts of Alvin Kamara into every random position. But Kamara just, that's a glancing blow.
Didn't tackle me.
I'm going to go score a touchdown now. Thank you so much.
I feel like that's the third time this season where he's been just dead to rights, and then he puts his hand on the ground and says, I'm going to stay up and then do a little spin, do a little jump, hop a guy, go over here. I'm going to disappear. I'm going to reappear in the end zone.
He's a magician.
What was that thing you used to hook up to the old Nintendos that got you all the cheat codes?
Oh,
Game Genie.
Game Genie was my jam.
That's my nickname for Alvin Kamara now.
Did you guys
He's
ever
Game Genie?
I love it.
Of course I used the Game Genie.
But did you guys ever make your own codes? Do you remember when you could do that?
I did not do that.
Oh, I played with this like crazy.
Jason's
you could
losing his mind.
literally there was a mode where you could turn it on and like put in random characters and create new like mistakes in the game that were cheat codes. Oh, that was a blast. That's it.
No. If you want to have a full-on Game Genie podcast, I'm down for this.
I'm down.
I mean, throwing in Battletoads, which is impossible to beat, but then you put on like the moon jump and
Everyone's always like,
lives.
"Oh, you can jump over the flag in Mario." No, you can't.
Alvin
yes,
Kamara,
I can.
Alvin
Hold my
Kamara used
beer.
2 moon jumps yesterday. Monster game. What do you need to know about him, though?
Right.
You're going to start him.
Yep.
The questions that I have, look, Alex Collins has now become, because this defense is so stout, they're in the lead a lot of the time, 2 touchdowns in this game. Rex Burkhead, 2 touchdowns on 15 touches. Kenyon Drake, somebody I moved way up in the rankings this week because, look, you take a shot with Kenyon Drake on a big play, right? He's a lot like Alvin Kamara in the sense that it only takes 1 or 2 to have relevance, and then all of a sudden you hand him a bunch of volume, and you get the 23 carries, 120 yards and a touchdown, 3 for 21 through the air. They just steamrolled Denver. I mean, Denver got destroyed. And we talked about this before. Denver's first half of the year rushing defense, nothing like the second half of the year where they're 28th against the run. You saw that come to fruition with Kenyon Drake.
Now, that was with Damian Williams out.
Yes. Right.
You would hope that the coaching
sensibilities.
That the coaching staff says, okay, Kenyon Drake, you are far superior to Damian Williams. You will be the starter, the primary ball carrier.
That won't happen. But I will say this. I don't expect Damian Williams to be back healthy for another week or 2. I think Kenyon Drake, you're going to get him probably all alone this week. Even if Damian Williams is active, this week I don't expect him to take over that. I mean, his shoulder was separated, so that's usually a multi-week injury.
Got to put it back together.
Yep.
All right, look, if you want to use Game Genie for the holidays on your gift giving, we want to thank today's sponsor, pristineauction.com. Look, you'll blow people's minds when they open up that Christmas present and see an autographed jersey from their very favorite player. Let me give you an example of how expensive this is, or what I'd like to say, how inexpensive that is. Signed, Derrick Henry Titans jersey just ended yesterday.
$733.
Nope, $51.16.
Ridiculous.
Juju Smith-Schuster, you want a signed mini helmet?
$1,000.
Nope, $93.
That's a better deal.
Evan Ingram, yesterday, a signed Giants jersey, JSA signature, $46 on pristineauction.com. So they are the best in the business, and the nice thing is you're not talking about going on there and finding 2 or 3 auctions every day. You're talking about hundreds of daily auctions. Your favorite player or your favorite team is going to be represented on pristineauction.com. Let them know the fantasy footballers sent you, PRISTINE auction.com.
Hey, Footclan, are you hiring? Then you got to check out ZipRecruiter. With ZipRecruiter, you can post your job to over 100 of the web's leading job boards with just 1 click. Then ZipRecruiter puts its smart matching technology to work, actively notifying qualified candidates about your job within minutes of posting so you receive the best possible matches. That's why ZipRecruiter is different. Unlike other hiring sites, ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on the right candidates finding you. It finds them. No wonder 80% of employers who use or post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in just 1 day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used by businesses of all sizes and industries to find the most qualified job candidates and immediate results. Right now, our listeners can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/footballers. That's ZipRecruiter.com/footballers. One more time to try it for free. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/footballers.
Free is very inexpensive.
It's the best kind.
My understanding. All right, other big games. Mark Ingram had the big run. It got in the end zone again. You can count on those running backs in New Orleans. Big statement win, taking over the division.
6 receptions. So, I mean,
beautiful.
I mean, you can't ask for more than that.
Jamal Williams, 21 for 113. They leaned on him, but how do you see that split,
I was just going to say
how do you see the split going? Aaron Jones, we knew that the workload wasn't going to be heavy for him probably coming off the injury.
Right.
But he made the most of it, 20-yard touchdown run. I think you're going to see more of a split.
I think it's going to be more split than it was last night, but it will be Jamal Williams.
You think it'll be more split than the
21-1 split?
Yes. My point is it's not going to be all Jamal Williams.
That's a bold call, Jason.
But my actual call here is that it will be the Jamal Williams show because Jamal Williams was the starter ahead of Aaron Jones the only reason Aaron Jones, got his crack first was due to injury to Jamal Williams. Well, now they've both been injured. Jamal Williams has come and proven, yeah, you were right to have me first in the depth chart or second in the depth chart ahead of Aaron Jones. That's the guy they drafted first, and both of them have looked great. There will be a little bit of a timeshare, but if I have to start one next week, I will say this. I'll be happy to start Jamal Williams next week.
Yeah, the Mike McCarthy runs his running backs. It's like a waiver system. It's with health. If you get injured, you move to the bottom.
Yep, you're back in the line.
Yep, you got to wait your turn again. So for Aaron Jones, I think to return to that the top of the mountain of the timeshare, it would take an injury to Jamal Williams.
All right, so we know that the Raiders were missing some weapons in the passing game. We said Marshawn, maybe he's going to have a big game. He beast-moded, 51-yard touchdown. Had a great week. He's been delivering for you as a fantasy owner lately. 17 more carries, 101 yards, and a touchdown. Targeted 3 times, caught 2 balls. All the reports right now, Ian Rappaport talking about Amari Cooper. He's right now just hopeful to return and get to play in Week 14 against the Chiefs. We know Crabtree will be back with the reduced suspension. But Marshawn Lynch right now, he's a very reliable player. I think what we're seeing here is you're looking at Alex Collins, Jamal Williams, Marshawn Lynch. They're in this reliable carry-tote vein right now where you can feel pretty comfortable. If any of those guys are your RB2 right now going into the fantasy playoffs, I'd feel pretty cozy.
Would you feel cozier with them or with Kareem Hunt?
Ooh.
I'd feel cozier with them right now. But I would feel more excited still with Kareem Hunt in the potential to give you that big game. But right now, I think enough shine has come off Kareem Hunt after this last performance, enough dysfunction in the offense in Kansas City to cause me to be both excited and afraid at the same time.
Sure. The guy I want to talk about is Peyton Barber, running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which this was,
makes sense, though.
You weren't exactly sure what to do, how to handle, because Doug Martin was going to be out with a concussion. You kind of assumed it would be Jacquizz Rodgers because Rodgers was the primary guy to start the year when Martin was facing his suspension. It came out basically
super late.
Kind of during the inactives on Sunday morning. No, in fact, Peyton Barber is going to be the starter. But he balled out, 23 carries, 102 yards, 4 receptions, and 41 yards. I mean, it's not just numbers. I was watching him, he looked very good. And he's had, last year he came in relief of Doug Martin during his injury last year and looked pretty decent. My question is, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers moving forward into next year, this season's gone.
Exactly.
This season is gone. And to me, there's no way that you can hold on to Doug Martin for the amount of money that you owe him when you can cut him with no penalty. And do you feel like, let's say Doug Martin's cleared to play next week, does it immediately go back to Doug Martin, or does the team say, we're going to start evaluating and see if Peyton Barber can be our guy next year?
They lost this game. They're out of the playoffs. Peyton Barber's 23 years old. He has theoretical upside compared to a guy like Jacquizz Rodgers getting snaps or Doug Martin getting cut. Outsnapped Jacquizz Rodgers 52-5. Definitely somebody that I think you need to think twice about. If Doug Martin comes back, I think the default reaction is what you said. It's going to be just throw Barber away. But if you're evaluating this team and what you have, it makes sense to give Barber more opportunities.
Yeah, I would hold him on my fantasy roster, but I
do
side with the default. Yeah, I would add him to a fantasy roster, but I would still expect it to go back to Doug Martin.
Okay.
We are going to get into the waivers, obviously, on tomorrow's show, get you more prepared to pick up players that can impact this first week of the playoffs. Maybe you got the bye, and you're looking 2 weeks away. We'll talk about defenses that you need to pick up and start, and you got to be looking now to a couple weeks away from here. Wide receivers, explosion from Tyreek Hill, 2 touchdowns on 185
My goodness.
Start of the week.
yards. Beautiful. Yeah, beautiful call there, Jason. Nelson Aguilar looks great. Nelson Aguilar has he uses the game Genie, but it's only active if 5 seconds has gone off the clock from the snap. He's not a good player until then. But when 5 seconds goes off and Carson Wentz is doing spin moves,
the scramble
and
drill,
dunking around, I mean, Aguilar is like 10 yards away from him, the nearest defender at all times. 2 balls last night. Okay, he had a great game, right? Nelson Aguilar, 7 for 141-1. This could have been bigger, a lot bigger. Missed him on a crossing route early. I know Chris Collinsworth, I think, talked about missing that pass 650 times after he missed it. I don't know why he just kept bringing that up. It's like not like Russell Wilson didn't miss a pass. So because he basically just kept saying if that play happened, the whole game's different. But even the other one, he hit him on a crossing route across the field, but he threw it way behind Aguilar. If he threw it ahead of him, it's a touchdown there too. So there were 2 bombs that could have easily happened with Nelson Aguilar. I think at this point, you're still taking a risk with him because he's not the one. This is like playing any 2, right? You play anybody outside of the first target. You had the advantage for Aguilar of Zach Ertz going off the field with the concussion concerns, and so Aguilar became a little bit more of a focal point. And you also had Carson Wentz throw for 350-plus yards. So I wouldn't overreact, but a good game from Aguilar.
It's a good game, and you bring up a great point with the Ertz news. And because this is not the first concussion for Ertz, I wouldn't be shocked at all if Ertz is not active this week. And if that's the case, Nelson Aguilar would be a very good play. I'm more thrilled to talk about a guy that you just can't possibly sit right now, Keenan Allen. Oh my goodness. He's been on fire. His schedule coming up is great. Mike, you want to say something?
I feel like I had to apologize here for Keenan Allen. I'm like,
you spent years touting Keenan Allen. You don't need to apologize.
Just the fact that I pushed him so hard last year, 2 years ago, last year, even pushed him hard coming into this draft season, saying Keenan Allen in the 4th and the 5th round is going to be a steal. And then I finally, the moment I accept the fate that Keenan Allen is giving people during that midseason stretch, which is you're a wide receiver 3. I mean, you're putting up poor numbers that I can find off the waiver wire. As soon as I accept that fate, that's when Keenan Allen said, "Oh, ye of little faith," and then explodes. And Keenan Allen, 3 straight games, double-digit targets, double-digit receptions, over 100 yards in 3 straight games. At least a touchdown.
You feel more comfortable starting Keenan Allen right now or Julio Jones?
Keenan Allen.
There you go. That's the confidence level with 3 straight. He's in the flames.
Yes, and his quarterback knows that he is in the flames, Phillip Rivers. And Phillip Rivers is like, yep, let's ride this until the wheels fall off.
Home Larry Fitzgerald blew it up again, 10 for 98 and a touchdown. He plays so good at home, and they're home next week against Tennessee. He even plays well at home. He plays good and well at home.
Superman does good.
That's right. Jermaine Kearse, 9 for 157. This was a player that Jason mentioned last week. Look, I know we all like Robbie Anderson, but this is a sneaky opportunity for Kearse. He's a great player. And then Marquise Lee, 7 for 86 and a touchdown. A couple pretty difficult catches in this game. Lee and Westbrook offering them some power at the wide receiver position.
Certainly.
More power.
All
right, Travis Kelce went ham in the first, 2 touchdowns in a minute and 45. And then
in the first 2 plays, he went ham, and then
Here's a hot tip.
It was really stupid of them to stop throwing the ball to him because as their offense really struggled later, they kept showing all these clips of Kelce was streaking wide open again and again and again.
He took a few more shots at him later. But, his production was a limited time event. However, it was enough for a lot of people to win their week.
Yeah.
Pat Patterson, World Series of Fantasy winner, Travis Kelce, started the day off, and he was high-fiving everybody. So, Evan Ingram, what a game from Ingram. 7 for 99 and a touchdown with Geno Smith, including a one-handed grab that maybe put to bed some of those drop concerns from last week.
This made me so happy because on the Periscope, Evan Ingram's name came up a lot, and I wasn't recommending to bench Ingram, but there was people giving me, kind of comparable names, and it was, we don't know what Geno is going to do. We don't know if he's going to hyper-target Shepard, if he's going to hyper-target Ingram. He should, but when it's a new quarterback, you don't know for sure what is going to happen.
Our advice last week with Shepard and Ingram was, look, you have to be honest and say we don't have a track record with Geno Smith. We don't know what's going to happen, but also you can't let that lack of knowledge throw out the number 5 tight end on the year, which is where Ingram was.
Yeah, there's 2 guys this week that are very likely to have been dropped possibly onto the waivers. Evan Ingram, after his poor stretch and then Eli Manning getting benched, there's going to be a lot of leagues where you can pick him up off of waivers, must add, and I'll throw Cameron Brate into that mix.
Hey, we're back.
Because Cameron Brate was a top 6 tight end on the season with Jameis, and then Jameis went away, and so did Cameron Brate. Fitzpatrick just wouldn't target him. We come back to this game. I'm watching intently because Jameis was, one of the more important pieces in the World Series of Fantasy Final Table, and every target seemed like when it still mattered and the game was on the line, it was going Cameron Brate's way. 2 touchdowns.
When the play breaks down for Jameis Winston, he can hit the A button, and that's Cameron Brate, or he can hit the B button, and that is kind of like flail around and throw the ball awkwardly to the other team.
Well, but you got to throw that late once you're in the position of getting sacked.
Yes.
That's when you just toss the ball out.
It was the most Jameis game ever.
And his numbers were fine.
Yeah, he was great for fantasy if you took the chance on him. But then he came through with his ridiculous play, and Cameron Brate up the seam for a 20, 30-yard touchdown. This is what he's doing.
What
he was
Jameis
doing
does.
weekly when he was earlier in the season.
Raising Cane's Rising Stars of the Week.
I'll jump in first with my Raising Cane's Rising Star of the Week, and that is because we've talked about it a couple of times. Zach Ertz, history of concussions, bigger fish to fry for the Eagles than winning this week, having Zach Ertz in this week, and a very talented replacement tight end. I'm going Trey Burton Rising Star.
This is a hot take.
It's a wild Rising Star, but it's the kind of play where I'd rather throw Trey Burton out there with what Wentz can do, identifying the middle of the field, and how important the tight end position is for the Eagles. I'd rather throw Trey Burton out there than I think I would Tyler Kroft.
Absolutely.
Next week for the Eagles. So if Ertz is out, Trey Burton is startable.
This is one of the only.
That sounds like algebra, Andy, and I don't appreciate
4
it.
for 42 in limited work last night.
Yeah, and the second that we were watching the game on a plane flying back, and so the second that we saw Ertz go down, I turned to Andy. I said, we've got to pick up Trey Burton in the Scotty Fishbowl League because he will be extremely utilized. We've seen it every single time Ertz is gone and Trey Burton is there. He's a great target. I love that pick.
This is somebody said something like, now that Brooks has beat me, I can't humble brag anymore. And I want to be very clear about this. I was never humble bragging.
There was nothing humble about it.
I was just bragging. That's just I just want to be clear about that. So when I say this next thing,
well, what I like about that is like, yeah, you got beat. Like, Andy's team is 12-1.
that's right.
Like, that's pretty freaking good.
Now, I want to be clear here, Mike. I don't know if you've paid close attention to this. We all are owners of the Scotty Fishbowl team as one group, the fantasy footballers.
Yes.
We only have it's a 2-quarterback league. We've only got one quarterback.
We're down to one. We're down.
But get this, we've got one quarterback, and we've been the leading scoring team in all of the games for the last 2 weeks. I think maybe this week one other team outscored us, and you're talking like 30 teams. And with one quarterback, somehow our team is getting by. We had the bye week this week, so we didn't even play against anybody. But apparently you can do it with one quarterback if you have Alvin Kamara. Just hot tip.
Take that.
Hot tip. But, yeah, that was a straight brag as well. Our team has a bye.
Alvin Kamara also was on the back of Pat Patterson's World Series of Fantasy.
He was on Pat Patterson's back?
I'm just saying,
That's
if
how
you
he's
have
so
Alvin
good.
Kamara, you win.
All right. So Trey Burton, rising star. I know it's a little out there, but I'm telling you, it'll pay off if Zerks is out.
I'm gonna go
Zach Ertz, old Zerks.
Zerg from Toy Story?
Xerxes.
From StarCraft.
All right. I'm going to go from the same game and a little bit out there too. But Mike Davis, running back for the Seattle Seahawks, he looked really good last night. He passed the eyeball test. But the thing is he looked good a couple games prior as well in the Atlanta game. We have a very small sample with Mike Davis. You might be saying, who is that? Who's Mike Davis? Eddie Lacy, they don't want to use him. Thomas Rawls, they don't want to use him. McKissick is he's not a between the tackles runner. He's great. He's using the passing game while CJ Prosise is out.
Andy's so glad that I'm back.
Yeah.
Smooches.
McKissick. But Mike Davis is for sure the starting running back for the Seattle Seahawks.
And they can use him in the passing game.
They can use him in the passing game.
Over 100 yards yet last week.
Total, yeah, 64 on the ground, 37 through the air, and that was against the number 1 rushing defense, the Philadelphia Eagles. He passed the eyeball test. I think it's late in the season where the Seahawks usually power up. And so this is a guy on waivers. There's not many people that you're going to get on waivers that can help you win a championship this late into the season. So Mike Davis is my rising star.
He reminds me of the way he runs right now. He reminds me of the way Rawls ran before he ran out of gas.
Ooh.
Yeah, pedal to the metal, but you run out of gas quick.
So someone else will be the starting running back for the Seahawks next
year, yes.
All right, my Raising Cane rising star of the week. He would have been my star last week, so I'm very glad that
But you weren't here.
I wasn't here, so I'm very glad he came through again. Rex Burkhead. And I know there are many of you rolling your eyes out there. Well, it's Deion Lewis. No, it's Rex Burkhead. No, it's Deion Lewis. Guess what? It's both.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely Rex Goathead. Since week 8, when he really returned from his injury, he's been the running back 8 in points per game. He is the goal line back. We saw Deion Lewis bust off a huge run. Unfortunately for Deion Lewis and Jason Moore, Deion Lewis was tackled at about the 1, and then they said, okay, well, here comes Rex Burkhead, our official goal line running back, and gets 2 carries and came through with pay dirt. In the last 2 weeks, he's getting 15 total touches.
I hate Rex Burkhead.
You get 15 total touches on the Patriots, and you're the goal line back. You are a weekly must start for me.
I agree. I agree. It's a 2-man show there, and you could start both of them. You're going to be happy when you do.
I will let you know that I'm gonna tweet out a picture of Jason when he watched the second Rex Burkhead touchdown happen.
I was
against
unaware that
him.
there was a photograph.
Well, there's a screen cap, really. You want the video?
No.
I don't know if it'll make you feel better, Jason, but I was playing a win and in my money league, and I was facing against Rex Burkhead, so
It doesn't help.
So the nail went into my heart, but you were luckily standing right behind me,
right, and
so it also went into your heart as well.
Great.
Welcome
that's
to fantasy
great
football.
news.
Literally, in our league of record league versus the dynasty league, Brooks has my wide receivers. This is the fun part of multiple leagues.
Right.
He had my 2 starting wide receivers, so everything they did was good and bad simultaneously. Did I want to win and get a bye week, or did I want to stay undefeated? The second one didn't happen.
Yeah.
All right. Brooks, is this breaking news?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Hit
Did they
the
get
button.
fired?
Hit the button. Hit the button.
Breaking news.
Rico Suave, a.k.a. Ben McAdoo, has been fired.
Yeah, I think we all saw it coming.
They didn't fire the GM?
No.
Not yet?
Right now, that could be coming. They could be walking down the hall. But as of right now, I believe it has just been McAdoo.
All right, we'll get into that in just a minute. I do want to remind people, Rex Goathead, or because I'm reading it, Rex Burkhead, Trey Burton, Mike Davis, the Raising Cane's Rising Stars of the Week. Remember, game day tastes better with Raising Cane's tailgates full of fresh 24-hour marinated, hand-battered chicken fingers and fresh brewed sweet tea. Visit raisingcanes.com to find your nearest location / live the good life. Mm-hmm. I'm going to throw that in there. All right, so Bob McAdoo out the door.
Ben
McAdoo. What did I say?
Bob.
It doesn't matter anymore.
He looks like a Bob.
Doesn't matter anymore. He's gone.
Ben McAdoo gone.
You think the
Ben
youth
McAdoo.
That's way better. Dang it. It was right there in front of my face.
Well, you're out of practice.
I am.
You were. How was the teacups?
Oh, do you want a true story about the teacups?
Give me something from Disneyland before we talk pooped in the big boy pants.
All right, so the Disney trip was fantastic. Got to meet a couple Foot Clan members while in Disneyland. What's up, fellas? But I am, I wouldn't say, I'm not old, but I am
elderly.
I am roller coaster old. I can't go on them anymore. I used to love them. I can't do spinning. I can't do G-forces.
Wow.
I can't handle it anymore.
I'm so ashamed.
And
embarrassed.
Yes,
really.
it sucks. It sucks for me.
Yeah,
it's like I lost a part of my life. But so it was the kids are, they're of course they want to go on the rides. They want to go on all of them. And unfortunately, my middle son is right on that threshold. He's not old enough to go on them by himself.
Right.
And his older sister can't take him. So one of us has to bite the bullet. So I went on the teacups.
Oh,
Yes.
no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
That's the one you chose?
No. We went on a few, but they were asking for the teacups, and I was like, Let's go. Let's do this. Not only did I go on the teacups, I spun that thing as hard as I possibly could, and I sat there in a trance with my eyes closed. And it actually worked almost the entire time.
Really?
Until the ride was done, and I almost fell out of the teacup. I almost fell out.
There's vomit everywhere.
And then everyone's like, where are we going? I'm like, Dad needs to sit down.
That's funny.
I'm going to say this. I'm incredibly surprised that your middle son could not go on the teacups by himself.
Because he's not 7.
Wow.
That's the rules.
The rules. Teacups 7 and up. All right.
They check IDs.
That's all
They
right.
do. Because they ask kids, how old are you? The kid's not going to
Oh,
lie
I know.
about
I
it.
hate that. I go to like the buffet and I'm like, yeah, he's 3. No, Daddy, he's 4. Shut your mouth. It's free 3 and under.
What are you teaching your kids?
Pooped in his big boy pants.
Yeah, because it's like, how old are you? I'm 6 3/4.
We may or may not have had when we did our live show here in Phoenix, the Foot Clan showed up, and we had a dad bring his kid, and there wasn't like drinking going on, but it's a bar, so they only allow kids in of certain ages. And I remember this kid asked a fantasy question. He loved the show. He came up afterwards and he goes, and I'm like, oh, how old are you? And his dad goes, 14, because he could get in there. All right, Tom Brady, for all of his consistency, decided, hey, let's lay an egg in Buffalo. 21 for 30. Rex Burkhead didn't help out because he ran him in. 258, no touchdowns. Wow.
Tom Brady was fine. I mean, if you look at the game, he started a little slow, but the offense got moving.
He laid
and
a
was
fantasy
great.
egg.
But absolutely laid a fantasy egg because the touchdowns were rushed in. If you missed him screaming at the offensive coordinator.
Oh, man.
He
gave McDaniels the business.
He was not happy.
No. I don't know if I should get into this or not.
This is
what do you
twice
think?
now.
Thumbs up or thumbs down? Give me
I
the
don't
signal.
know. I have no idea
Brooks,
where we're
what
going.
do you think? Give me a ruling.
Let's do it.
Okay. So
Don't do it.
Tom Brady freaked out.
Yes.
Freaked out on the sideline. We've had situations. Now, Odell Beckham Jr. brought this up this morning. He thought there was a double standard there because he's freaked out on the sidelines before and gets, destroyed in the media.
Des Bryant has freaked out on the side and got destroyed.
Now,
Anquan Bolden.
this is why I said
This is a trepidatious
I don't know
topic
if I
for
want to
this
get
show.
into it, and I think that I just think he should be held to the same standard. So
Absolutely.
he should be. That being said, he's a quarterback, and a quarterback specifically, regardless of any of the other
Nuances
to the situation, generally, I mean, they're the ones dealing with the offensive coordinator in that way. But he should be held to the same standard.
He absolutely
and he
should be held
freaked
to it.
out.
Yes.
And so Brady, we were saying this from that point on, it kind of seemed like he was a little on tilt. And look, they got it done. They're the Patriots. They won the game, but it didn't help your fantasy team. And then you had Gronkowski at the end of the game not be able to control himself.
Gronk better be suspended.
You think he'll be suspended?
He concussed him. I mean, it was a cheap shot. Now, you want to talk about double standard. Imagine someone had taken that cheap shot at Tom Brady. That player would have been kicked out and suspended the next week. Gronkowski better be suspended next week.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see what happens. Tyrod Taylor, we talked about the injury, but he was not good. Fortunately, we were off of him this week because it was tempting in the beginning of the week to say, hey, look, opportunity, floor, baseline. It didn't feel right. The way New England's been playing, nobody's scoring any points. The opportunity for upside was not there. They only gave up 3 points to Buffalo in this game, and then Taylor had the injury to boot. Matt Ryan let people down against Minnesota at home.
Very disappointing.
Great opportunity for them to really be in the playoff hunt. Now they're out of the playoff picture as of today. Trevor Siemian.
Man, he was horrific. He was so bad. Every time I looked up, he was throwing the ball to with his eyes closed.
There was a point, I think it was even in the third quarter, where neither Emmanuel Sanders or Demaryius Thomas had caught a pass.
Yeah, that is not good. And then you move into running backs. My biggest disappointment of the week is Jordan Howard.
Yes.
Goodness gracious.
Everything was lined up.
I was really, if you always have percentages kind of how much you believe in a pick. You believe strongly that a guy's going to perform well, or you think maybe he could. I firmly was in the camp of Jordan Howard was one of the safest plays this last week at home against San Francisco, the team that wants to run the ball and give him the ball so much. And Jordan Howard ended the game with only 13 carries. I feel like that's just a gigantic mistake.
I have to ask
and they
a
lost
question.
the game.
I know we have a lot of guys to talk about, but Jordan Howard at Cincinnati, at Detroit, then Cleveland. Where's your confidence level for Howard? Is it in the 2 range? I'd rather roll out Kareem Hunt at home for 3 games in a row than I would Jordan Howard, right?
They're near the same, but I'm not sure.
The balance isn't there in that offense. It's hurting Jordan Howard.
Yeah,
I still believe in Jordan Howard.
I do too. I believe in the player.
Jordan Howard, or saying that you should. I would not say you should bench him, including next week in Cincinnati. I actually think Cincinnati right now, lately, their run defense is overrated.
Here's the problem with Howard. Last 4 games, 15 carries, 15 carries, 7 carries, 13 carries. 1 big game, 3 duds. So he's 25% on producing on expectations in those games. Now the matchups, they were pretty good. I mean, Green Bay at home stunk. San Francisco at home stunk. Now he got beat by Philadelphia. Okay, you're in Philadelphia. I just think that I just don't know. I don't know what to say. Any week he could have a big week, but I'd rather play Alex Collins than Jordan
Alex
Howard.
Collins on fire.
Yeah.
All right. Disappointing weeks from Crowell. Duke Johnson wasn't that good. Jaquiz Rogers didn't have that opportunity.
I don't think he.
No, he absolutely pooped people's teams, because if you weren't up to the date,
that's why you got to be on Twitter.
Yeah, well, you should, for sure. You should be on Twitter. You should be, on about an hour before a game. If you have the ability, you should be looking at those things, because news came out that it was going to be Peyton Barber getting the bulk of the work. If you looked at our rankings right before game time, you would have seen the switch in our rankings where Jaquiz Rogers fell and Peyton Barber went up prior to game. But if you didn't notice that.
Yeah, not everybody has that opportunity. Yeah, disappointing.
Then he just smoked you.
Danny Woodhead. My second most disappointing player of the week. I expected bigger things from Woodhead. This game turned into a blowout. I think that helped Alex Collins quite a bit. But Woodhead was 3 carries, 2 receptions. I'm super disappointed. He's got Pittsburgh, Cleveland on the road. Maybe those games, the game script turns a little
Pittsburgh
bit better.
seems like a Danny Woodhead game, because you expect Pittsburgh to be able to score in Pittsburgh.
I just don't know what a Danny Woodhead game is yet. We cannot forget. This is very important. We cannot forget that Danny Woodhead has not been a fantasy-relevant player in Baltimore yet. That's the fact. He hasn't done it yet.
Fair.
So I don't want to imbue too much, even though I thought he was going to be a guy that would win people leagues. Lacey, irrelevant. Rawls, irrelevant. Let's talk wide receivers. Julio Jones.
Oh, man.
Could you just share some of last week's points with this week? Just spread it out.
Split them. Just split them.
How does this happen? How does this happen to players like Julio and Amari Cooper? You come off a game where the team realizes, okay, let's funnel all targets to the best wide receiver.
Look, when you're eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and all the jelly's in one bite, that's not that good of a sandwich.
Here's the truth. Watching this game intently, because I had Matt Ryan going in a very important matchup for me, the Minnesota Vikings had the ball the whole stinking game. Their defense is really good, but their offense is what really helped their defense out. Matt Ryan, we've said this before, he's not a come-from-behind type of quarterback. He's not a when we're down and we're in clear passing situations, I'm going to rack up fantasy points type of guy. And this game was completely front to back, all 3 phases, controlled by Minnesota. That's why I give the Minnesota Vikings the credit for Julio Jones's poor game, as opposed to the week prior, right? It's not just Xavier Rhodes. That's why I'm bringing up the Minnesota offense. The week prior, when you're playing a team like Detroit and Matthew Stafford, who is good in those situations, he's used to having to throw from behind and be that gunslinger, and he's going to air it out and make that work. That's not Matt Ryan's game.
And we also mentioned Minnesota gives up the least amount of explosive plays, which are runs of more than 11 yards, passes of more than 15 yards in the league, half as many as Kansas City's given up this year. And Julio Jones made a lot of his fantasy production on those last week. I'm gonna read out some poopers. I want you to give me the most relevant, important pooped in their big boy pants, wide receiver, and tell me what that means for fantasy owners before we move on. Evans, Mike Evans against Green Bay. Everything was lined up. I'll be the first to admit I had him at number 2 on my rankings this week. I expected big things with Winston back. You got that with Brate. You didn't give it with Evans. Brandon Cooks, Stephon Diggs, Corey Coleman, Devontae Parker, the two wideouts in Denver, Deshaun Jackson, Corey Davis.
The lead stories here are the combo of Mike Evans and Brandon Cooks. Those were guys that were, consensus top 5 wide receivers on the week. Matchups looked perfect. Everything lined up. Quarterbacks healthy and back, and they both absolutely stunk. You only had 6 targets for Mike Evans. That's not his game. He was far and away my biggest disappointment this week. If I look at every position, every player, Mike Evans had, when he started this season, you questioned. We went into this offseason kind of saying, look, Mike Evans, he's not that tier 1 player. Don't draft him that way.
We got destroyed for that, by the way.
Yeah, and it looked bad in week 1 when he comes out and it has 7 receptions and 93 yards and a touchdown, follows that up the next week with another 7 receptions. But since those first few weeks, he has not been a volume target player. It's hard to know because, over the last 5 weeks, 4 of it was Ryan Fitzpatrick. I hope Jameis Winston figures that out going forward. You've got Detroit, a much better matchup. I think, I don't know much better than Green Bay, but at least a good matchup, and maybe they can figure that out. But he was my biggest disappointment.
There was the play where Evans went up and had almost a sensational catch. He caught the ball, and it looked to me like Tampa Bay should have challenged. Like it looked like it was a split second.
I think he was out of bounds.
Regardless, I thought maybe his knee hit in, but he also injured his hand or his arm on that play. I don't know if that factored into the rest of the game being disappointing.
Now, that being said, you're not going to sit Evans, but there are players that I just named that you will question starting at all rest of season, like Diggs, Parker, Coleman, Demaryius Thomas, and Sanders. How many of those players can you start rest of season? You've got your playoffs on the line.
If I had to pick one of that group, I'm going to start Stephon Diggs. Because,
that's the only one that I would agree with.
He's usually better at home. This was a road game, but Case Keenum's looked good. The Minnesota offense I believe in. Whereas Corey Coleman with Josh Gordon, I don't know about. Devontae Parker has kind of disappeared. So of that list, I'm okay rolling with Diggs. The others, they need to warm my bench.
Warm it up. All right, look, Jared Cook disappointed the heck out of me this week. Every opportunity to be involved. Got 5 targets, only caught 1 of them. That's not good. But Jared Cook does what Jared Cook does, which is when you expect something from him, he gives you nothing. ASJ, it continues to be a downturn for his season. Vernon Davis. Not good.
What happened?
Look, other people are catching the ball too.
What happened?
Not good. Jack Doyle.
Oh.
The ping pong continues. Back down to 3 for 16. And then Charles Clay.
At least Charles Clay.
Charles Clay is the Cameron Brate of that roster. When Winston's there, Brate's good. When Taylor's there, Clay's good. Taylor went off the field.
Yep, I think that's a fair point. I don't know if you can trust Charles Clay moving forward the rest of the season, just because I'm anticipating the Bills making a move to Peterman.
All right. So, again, this is why Trey Burton, to me, I just read you a bunch of names. You might not have very much confidence. I have confidence in Carson Wentz. I have confidence in that offense, that number 1 offense. I'd rather play those guys than I would, lean on maybe Brissett to find Doyle again, or Garoppolo to find George Kittle again, or something like that.
I still have confidence in Jack Doyle.
All right, that is it for today's episode. We'll be back with the waivers on tomorrow's show. Have a wonderful Monday night. Hope things work out for you. If you got Antonio Brown, I'm sure you're on pins and needles.
Yeah, check those inactives.
Hopefully you have a backup plan. Thanks for tuning in, supporting the podcast. And as always, a reminder, check out our studio sponsor, Draft, by going to draft.com/ballers and playing with us this weekend. Take care.
Hey, goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.